seat designed around what a police officer in the year 2050 would need, or what might be possible in the year 2050. But I built it for today, which the tool belt for a police officer, so you could take a seat out and put one in for the year 2050, but designed today for what's on his belt, like cameras around him, so when he gets out, be a live shot as he gets out. He won't be able to shut it off, won't be able to hide stuff, because sometimes cops are sneaky, have a board of directors with honest citizens to watch him. Criminals, they can hide the signals so criminals can't watch them, but we can have a board of directors where they can pick honest signals to watch cops to keep them honest, so sometimes cops aren't honest. Lawyers may be $400 or $500 an hour. I don't quote the Bible, but the Bible says something to the order that God knew you before you were in your mother's womb, and also something that God knew I don't have kids. I have two brothers that had children, and God don't know. I don't know my brother's kids very good, but God knows their kids, right on down the line a ways. He already knows their children by name. And in order for their parents to meet and their parents to meet and their parents to meet, there may be a crime involved in there. So they may need a lawyer, although that crime is destiny. How could they be guilty of destiny? So a lawyer may be involved in here. That's like driving down the street. You gotta watch the stop sign. You gotta watch the sidewalk. You gotta look in the mirror. Doing all that, you may not look at the speed limit or the speedometer, and you may be speeding. And looking in the mirror and looking at the sidewalk and looking at the speedometer, you may run a red light and hit somebody, so you may need a lawyer. So lawyers be paid by the federal government to get you out of trouble. Some states have you can be legal to smoke marijuana, so we got people in prison that's legal to do otherwise. Though you may be innocent, it may be cheaper to hire a lawyer to keep an innocent person out of jail than it would be to send them to jail for 20 years. It may be cheaper to hire a lawyer for a couple months to defend somebody that's innocent rather than send them to jail for 20 years. And it may be cheaper to hire a lawyer to get somebody out of prison that would be spending the next 15 years in prison. It may be cheaper to hire a lawyer for 2 or 3 weeks or a month to get them out of jail than letting them sit there for 15 years. They may be innocent. People may know they're innocent, but they can't get a good enough lawyer or a dozen people to get to work on the case to do it. So you can hire the federal government, if they can pay people to go to war, if they can pay everybody they paid in Vietnam to fight a war, if they can pay that many people to defend somebody, and then they don't have to sit in prison if they're innocent, to defend them and get them out of prison, they can pay people to get them out of prison so they don't have to sit in prison rot if people know that they're innocent. Okay, like if you work in an auto plant, $300 an hour, and build a car, where the car really don't cost anything because the federal government pays for it. And if you can build war equipment, if you spend $500 million on a plane, you can buy a car and sell it overseas and get their money. And then like if you can retire at age 50 at 30 years service, you can go overseas after we sell that car overseas and get their money and go overseas and spend their money over there on vacation. Or a soldier, you can retire at 20 years service after working 40 years in the military. And if you get an arm blown off, that's the same as being disabled or retired. And if you can spend $500 million on an airplane, we can spend $500 million on disability for him and build him a house or a wheelchair or an arm that'll fit his body or a leg that'll fit a robot leg. We can spend research. If we can spend $500 million on researching a plane, we can spend $500 million on robotics for a soldier or all of them. Or it'll help all people that have disabilities. Helping one helps them all. I have an idea on clean energy. I've repeated it on a different commercial. It's in Clean Energy. David Formal, DAVIDFORMHALS, Clean Energy, and you two are the same place this will be. You can look it up, and I missay it every time I say it, but it's contained of air. You'd use oil. You let the oil get under these containers of air, and they'd be buoyant, and they'd go up. You have rings around it that slide down where the oil couldn't get under them, and they'd no longer be buoyant. They would want to go down, but they wouldn't. But you'd use the rising air to pull the air that couldn't get the oil on them down. You'd at the bottom, you'd have spaces, and it'd work. So when the air went up, it'd leave a void at the bottom, where when it went down, it'd need a void. And vice versa, when it went up, it'd do back and forth. And I think you get energy out of rising air to run a generator and power the whole country with gravity. And being we wouldn't be using this oil for gas, and we wouldn't be burning this oil in the home, eventually you'd use all this oil you wouldn't be using in these containers. And you'd do away with the coal we're burning. It'd do away with burning oil in the homes, and do away with burning gas in the car, because the oil we use to make gasoline out of, you'd put in these containers to power the air. But it's in Clean Energy, and if you look at